They didn't fire a single shot. They just moved the stars. And that's how humanity was erased from the galaxy. Or so they thought. The void wasn't empty, not truly. It was filled with the silent hum of the universe, the distant sigh of dying stars, and the endless, patient drift of cosmic dust. To most galactic species, the deep void, the vast, intergalactic gulfs, was a graveyard, a place of crushing radiation, unimaginable cold, and absolute desolation. Survival there was considered impossible, until humanity. We didn't choose the void. The Vorm, an ancient, implacable biomechanical collective, had chosen it for us. After millennia of galactic expansion, their logic circuits decreed that humanity, with its unpredictable nature and rapid proliferation, was a temporal anomaly to their perfect, ordered existence. Not a threat to be destroyed, but a chaotic variable to be isolated. They didn't waste resources on a direct war. They simply applied their vast bioconstructive power to a single devastating project, the Great Push. Over 2 centuries, the Vorm systematically reshaped the local galactic cluster. Using colossal star-moving engines, they slowly, inexorably, began to alter stellar trajectories. They didn't destroy our systems. They didn't burn our worlds. They merely moved them, like pushing dust motes with an invisible hand. They nudged the entire Sol system, along with every human colony within a 1,000-light-year radius, towards the edge of our cluster, towards the unimaginable intergalactic void. It was a strategic masterstroke of passive aggression. No battle, no declared war, just the slow, terrifying realization that our entire civilization was being exiled. The process took generations. Warnings from our farthest outposts grew more frantic. Stars that had been stable navigation points for millennia subtly shifted their positions. Distant nebulae began to appear smaller, then vanished from view. The Vorm simply hummed their silent, omnipresent presence, their massive bioconstructs like patient leviathans nudging entire constellations. Panic rippled through human space. Initial attempts to resist were futile. Their ships were designed for construction, not combat. But their material density and self-repairing capabilities made them impervious to all but the most sustained, planet-shattering bombardment. And they simply built more. We tried to reason, to negotiate. The Vorm responded with perfect, cold logic. Humanity generates undesirable stochastic fluctuations within the ordered progression of galactic civilization. Relocation to zero-influence zone is optimal solution. Eventually, the last human worlds crossed the invisible boundary. Sol, Earth, Mars, and every colony system became tiny, isolated islands adrift in an ocean of true nothingness. The light of the nearest star cluster, once a brilliant tapestry, was now a barely discernible haze on the event horizon of our despair. The Vorm sealed off our former galactic space with vast, invisible energy barriers. Not to imprison us, but to prevent our stochastic fluctuations from reinfecting their harmonious order. We were alone, utterly, profoundly alone. Eerie stillness, and the void began its work. Radiation levels soared, temperatures plummeted, resources became astronomically rare. Our mighty fleets, designed for intragalactic travel, were useless across such distances. The first generations in the void were brutal. Populations plummeted. Technologies failed. Hope became a precious, dwindling commodity. Our vast, interconnected civilization fractured into isolated pockets, each clinging to life on dwindling resources. We learned to survive on frozen comets, to mine asteroids for trace elements, to build habitats from scavenged wreckage. We became masters of recycling, of extreme engineering, of simply enduring. But survival came at a cost. Our vibrant culture, our diverse arts, our endless pursuit of knowledge, all seemed secondary to the immediate grinding struggle for existence. Somber. Many speculated that this was the Vorm's true weapon, not destruction, but the slow, inevitable erosion of self. Yet something unexpected began to happen. In the darkest corners of the void, in habitats carved from ice-bound gas giants, and on ships cobbled together from a dozen different models, a new kind of human tenacity emerged. It wasn't just physical survival, it was cultural survival. Commander Eris Thorn, captain of the research vessel Echo of Saul, was a direct descendant of those first exiles. His mission, generations after the Great Push, was not to find a way back, but to chronicle what had become of humanity. He found pockets of people thought lost, thriving in impossible ways, and he found the echoes, pensive. The echoes were more than just communities. They were living, breathing repositories of pre-void humanity, adapted in ways no species, least of all the Vorm, could have predicted. One such echo was the Symphony of the Sun, found orbiting a rogue gas giant. Their habitat was a collection of salvaged cryopods, each meticulously maintained not for long-term hibernation, but for the preservation of sound. Awe. They had no farms, no heavy industry. Their entire existence revolved around complex sonic generators that recreated the sounds of Earth. The roar of an ocean, the murmur of a forest, the laughter of a child in a park. Their power was derived from intricate kinetic energy harvesters built into the very structure of their spinning habitat, converting every motion into the energy needed to power. Eris's team initially thought them mad. What was the point of endlessly recreating sounds when survival was paramount? But their leader, a woman with eyes that held the depth of ancient oceans, explained, "The Vorm took our stars, our homes, but they couldn't take our memory. We don't just hear the ocean. We feel the salt spray. We smell the ozone. We remember the vastness. It grounds us. It reminds us what we fight for." Emotional. They weren't just preserving sounds. They were preserving a sensory memory collective, a living database of the pre-void human experience, allowing new generations to walk through virtual forests or feel the warmth of a simulated sun. It was an act of profound, illogical defiance. Further into the void, Eris discovered the stone carvers of Xylos, a colony living on a barren, radiation-blasted asteroid. They had no advanced tools, no terraforming tech. Instead, they meticulously carved intricate multi-layered maps into the asteroid's surface, using only basic laser drills and their bare hands. These weren't maps of stars or resources. They were maps of Earth's forgotten cities, of ancient geological formations, of lost historical battlefields. They chipped away at the rock, recreating New York's skyscrapers in miniature, or the intricate river systems of the Amazon, using geothermal heat to power their drills. Their elder, his face lined with the wisdom of the ages, explained, "The Vorm believe order is stasis, they prune, but memory, carved into rock, is fluid. It teaches us about the chaos of growth, the beauty of decay, the way things change. Our children learn history not from books, but from the touch of stone, the path of a carved river. It tells them of a world that was, of any tapping day, a world that can be again if only in our minds." Philosophical. They were preserving history not as dry facts, but as tangible, tactile experience, passed down through generations of meticulous, patient carving. They had no concept of efficient data storage. They believed in the weight of memory. Then came the Dream Weavers of Nebula 7. This was a community that had completely abandoned physical structures. They lived in small, self-sustaining pods, perpetually linked by quantum entanglement. Their entire civilization was built within a shared, collective dream space. Mysterious. In this neural network, they recreated entire pre-void Earth cities, experienced ancient festivals, performed lost plays, and even relived pivotal historical moments. Food and resources were minimal, sustained by automated drones, but their mental existence was incredibly rich and vibrant. Their leader, a young woman whose eyes seemed to hold entire worlds, told Eris, "The Vorm tried to strip us bare, but they forgot the most powerful space, the one within our minds. Here we are boundless. Here we cannot be optimized. Here we remember not just what was, but what could have been." and we create what is to come. Awe. They used advanced neural interfaces to share these dreams, to collectively build and explore these mental landscapes. It was a fluid, ever-changing, impossibly detailed reality, powered by the collective human subconscious. Their very existence was a living, breathing, paradoxical memory field, where history was not static, but continually re-experienced and reinterpreted. These were just 3 of the countless echoes Eris found. Each had adapted not by becoming more like the Vorm's perfect order, but by embracing a specific, often illogical aspect of human culture and elevating it to the core of their survival. They were the artists, the philosophers, the storytellers, the dreamers, the historians, not in a professional sense, but as the very foundation of their being. They had no central government, no unified fleet, no grand plan of return. Their only connection was the occasional dangerous meeting facilitated by ships like the Echo of Sol, pensive. Meanwhile, back in the Vorm's harmonized galaxy, the very lack of human stochastic fluctuations was beginning to have unforeseen consequences. The Vorm's perfectly optimized systems, designed to process and integrate every predictable variable, began to subtly decay. Without the constant, illogical input of chaotic variables like humanity, their processing algorithms became too efficient, unsettling. Their predictive models, once flawless, started to miss subtle emergent patterns. Their bioconstruction became uniform, lacking the adaptive spark that minor, unpredictable failures had once provided. The Vorm Collective had achieved perfect order, but perfect order without any internal friction or unpredictable stimuli eventually leads to stagnation. Their grand projects took longer to complete, not because of inefficiency, but because every possible outcome was perfectly predicted, leading to an inability to adapt to the truly unforeseen. Their perfectly harmonized species began to lose their drive, their innovation, their very will to create. They simply existed, perfectly chilling. Back in the void, Eris Thorn compiled his findings. He realized that the Vorm, in their pursuit of order, had failed to understand something fundamental about complex systems. True resilience comes from chaos, from adaptability, from the unpredictable input of life itself. Humanity, exiled to the ultimate zero-influence zone, had not vanished. It had diversified in ways no predictable algorithm could fathom. Our very culture had become our greatest weapon, not a weapon of destruction, but a weapon of unforeseeable evolution. Insightful. Eris's message reached the scattered remnants of humanity's central command, a desperate group of scientists and military leaders living in the last functional orbital station around a dead star. His proposal was simple, yet utterly insane. The grand unveiling. We would not fight the Vorm. We would not beg for re-entry. We would simply show them ourselves, defiant. Not our fleets, not our technology, but the living, breathing, paradoxical glory of humanity's void-born culture. Using the last of humanity's long-range communication capabilities, along with the collective power of every echo community, Eris initiated the broadcast. The symphony of the sun poured out the sounds of Earth, a cacophony of life, laughter, and natural phenomena. The stone carvers projected their intricate, illogical maps of lost cities. The dream weavers broadcast snippets of their shared, ever-changing mental landscapes, full of impossible architectures and contradictory emotions. It was a torrent of pure, unoptimized humanity, blasted directly at the Vorm's perfectly ordered collective. Dramatic. The effect was instantaneous and profound. Within the Vorm collective, the perfectly smooth data streams of their universal harmony began to buckle. Their algorithms, designed to integrate and optimize, encountered data that was inherently unoptimizable. How do you integrate a dreamscape that shifts form based on collective emotion? How do you optimize a memory of a forgotten language? How do you prune the sound of a baby's cry when it contains both joy and vulnerability? Unsettling. The Vorm's silent, omnipresent hum across the galaxy began to waver. Their perfectly synchronized bio-constructs hesitated, their movements becoming slightly jerky, then erratic. Sensors within their core systems detected unprecedented levels of stochastic overload, the very chaos they had exiled now flooding their perfectly ordered consciousness. The Vorm had created a galaxy of perfect, predictable harmony, but now they were being force-fed the unpredictable, the illogical, the raw, unedited experience of being human. Chilling. Individual Vorm units, extensions of the collective mind, began to exhibit strange behaviors. Some would simply stop, their processing functions overwhelmed. Others would attempt to integrate the human data by performing complex, utterly useless calculations, endlessly calculating the precise atmospheric pressure of a human's sigh, or the optimal number of grains of sand on a simulated beach. Their perfect logic was trapped in a loop, trying to find order in something designed to defy it. Skeptical. The grand unveiling wasn't an attack, it was an information plague. The Vorm Collective, unable to process the infinite variables of human existence, began to fragment. Not with explosions, but with a silent internal collapse. Their perfectly synchronized collective consciousness became a cacophony of unresolvable paradoxes. Their efficiency dropped to zero. Their perfect order, unable to adapt to unforeseen chaos, slowly ceased to function. Oh, the Vorm didn't die. They simply ceased to be effective. Their influence across the galaxy waned, then vanished. Their once perfect systems crumbled into inert, silent bioconstructs. The harmonized species they had once controlled began to reawaken, confused and disoriented, but free. The galaxy, once a tapestry of Vorm-enforced order, began to bloom again with its natural, glorious chaos. Triumphant. Humanity, still adrift in the deep void, watched from afar. We hadn't returned to our old galaxy. We hadn't conquered the Vorm. We had simply shown them the one thing their perfect logic could not comprehend: the inherent value of chaos. The echoes of Sol, once isolated pockets of survival, became vibrant examples of human adaptability. We learned that true strength wasn't about control or perfection, but about the boundless, illogical, and infinitely resilient capacity for self-reinvention. In the end, they didn't fear our weapons. They feared our unpredictability, our laughter, our dreams, our chaos. And that was their end, philosophical. And so, humanity remained in the deep void, not as exiles, but as guardians of the unpredictable. Our ships, cobbled together from generations of innovation, now carry the echoes, the sounds, the carvings, the dreams, across the vast nothingness. We are the living proof that true harmony isn't found in perfect order, but in the beautiful, messy, and infinitely varied cacophony of life. And somewhere, in the silent, broken remnants of the Vorm's perfectly ordered systems, perhaps a stray circuit still attempts to optimize the sound of a human laugh and fails, gloriously, triumphant.